start. So today's webinar is mainly about studying internationally and staying connected to your nation. And I can promise you that this is going to be exciting because we have two of our own speakers who have wide experience when it comes to studying internationally while still doing various projects in their home countries. So I would, before we, as the discussion is going on, I would encourage us all to be interactive, ask questions in the chat box. You can raise up your hand and be able to ask your question directly to either or both of our speakers. Now, I will have the honor to introduce our speakers. First one, Rafael Ajima. So I'll just read his bio and the kind of work he has done and his studies as well. So Raphael is a passionate individual with over 4 years of experience in international development and education initiatives that span Africa, the Americas, and Europe. He has his roots from Nigeria, but currently he lives in Canada, where he works for McGill University as the program administrator for the Mastercard Foundation Transitions Project, which is a program that facilitates Mastercard Foundation scholars and alumni's transition to the world of work and for impact in Africa and beyond. As a side project, he is also currently co-creating a project that advances academic goals and access to EdTech for underserved communities. So it's part of this project called EdTech that tries to connect people with opportunities. So the project has also been funded by WMI in 2017, and Raphael works in both Igbo, English, and French as well, so he's multilingual. So if you need any French classes and Igbo classes, you can see him on the side. So welcome to Raphael. We are so glad to have you today. And our next speaker is Hilary Obina. Hilary is my learned friend from Nigeria as well. So Hilary is an attorney licensed to practice in Nigeria and a graduate student at Columbia Law School in New York, where he's a recipient of the Mckenzie Scholarship, David Polk Fellowship, and Columbia Law School Human Rights Fellowship. He's also the founder of Project Freedom, a pro bono human rights initiative he founded, and through which he and some lawyers offer pro bono legal counsel, litigation, and alternative dispute resolution services to indigent prisoners. This project was solely funded also by the WMI grant. He possesses prior experience working at an investment bank, asset management and securities dealing firm, and more recently, a commercial bank. So as you can see, Hilary can also give you some legal advice on investment and stuff like that. I'm hoping so. So welcome again, Hilary and Raphael. We are so honored to have you. So just looking at the overview of today's webinar, we're going to tackle some or all of these issues if time allows. We'll look at why people need to study either at home or abroad, and what kind of opportunities are available after you get your undergraduate studies or diploma and other types of studies, and then how then you can fund your education, because it's not cheap, as you can tell, and just making sure that you're also keeping connected to your home countries. As I mentioned earlier, our speakers are studying internationally in world-class universities, but also they're still going on with their various projects in their home countries. And then what next after graduating? Do you remain there? Do you go back home? How do you navigate that? So we'll talk a lot about that in today's webinar. And I encourage you guys to ask questions, and we'll see. So I will turn it over to our speakers. They will take it from there and hopefully guide us throughout the session today. Just to also mention that Mariam is here with us, and she's shadowing me, so just in case anything happens to my network, she's going to be the moderator. Welcome to our speakers.
All right. I imagine I'm the first person starting to speak. If not, please stop me. But yeah, thank you so much, Juma, for the presentation. Thank you so much, the WMI Advisory Board for organizing this event, which is really a good opportunity for us to come together once more and share amongst ourselves. So I'm just going to perhaps talk briefly about my own personal experience, right? Studying overseas, and some of the ways, over these years, I've continually tried to maintain a connection to my home country. My name is Rafael Ajima. I'm from Nigeria, born, raised, grew up in Nigeria. And yeah, initially I would say the first time the idea of studying internationally, or just even being so curious to leave my comfort zone or leave my home country to just move elsewhere to study, started all the way from when I was still in high school, from junior high school. I remember I was very, very passionate about language, learning about other people's culture, learning about geography, just being a little bit like curious as to what goes on in other parts of the world other than my home country, Nigeria. So I remember I was pretty much good in learning French at that time, which was very strange because, for some of you who may know Nigeria, Nigeria is an Anglophone country, and most people speak English with their mother tongue. So if you're speaking French, that's like adding an extra, form of language to you, which people find really bizarre at that point in time. But I continued because it was just something that I'm curious and I'm passionate about until even I finished my high school. And then after high school, briefly, I was actually supposed to start studying at University of Nigeria. And that was when I became part of the WMI Scholar. But I ended up getting scholarship overseas. And unfortunately, given my passion to study outside my home country, I was really excited. So I took up the opportunity to study outside my home country. So in 2015, it was very interesting. I moved over to Canada, to McGill. McGill is a university located in Montreal, which is the French province in Canada. So for some of you who are not conversant with the Canadian provinces, so we have different provinces, but McGill is located in Quebec region, which is the French province, the only province in Canada where French is the official language. So you could see, if you're tracing the storyline, you see I've already started developing passion to just go and study overseas earlier on by learning French. And behold, as fate will have it, I ended up landing myself in the French province, which was such a very good opportunity for me, not just in terms of having access to the world-class education that I had at McGill, but also to continue to even learn more stimulate myself in French language and the culture that I had already developed passion for. I graduated from McGill in 2019. I studied international development and social entrepreneurship. It all stems from the idea of promoting, developing, finding avenues to support developing nations, and of course, finding ways in which business can be much more socially responsible in their doings. So I ended up combining both development and social entrepreneurship so that I can not only understand how businesses work, but also understand how governments and NGOs in general can support development opportunities from where I am from, but also in developing nations in general. Ever since I've graduated, it's been up and down. I will have more opportunity to talk about it during the presentation, but it has really been up and down, even working in diverse sector until currently I now work for McGill University, which is the university that I graduated from, and I work as a program admin supporting a transitions project that support young people as they graduate and then hope to move into the world of work, particularly for impact in the African continent. So I support them through various ways, like through the mentorship program we do, through professional development and career opportunities, and then of course through internship placements that help them as that first step before they move into the world of work. I'm going to stop speaking and then give Hilary the opportunity to perhaps talk briefly about your experiences before we dive into some of the questions that Juma had raised.
All right, thank you, Raphael. Hi, everyone. You can just call me Obinna. It's so good to be here and with Raphael and Juma and Mariam. So I'm Obinna. I am Nigerian. I was born there. I was raised there, and I lived there for all my life up until now. I studied law at the University of Jos, and afterwards proceeded to the law school, got licensed to practice there, and right after I began working, first very briefly at a law firm, and then moved on to an investment bank with subsidiaries, as Juma explained earlier. And then more recently, I left there and moved to join a commercial bank. So my experience has largely been in the banking and finance sector. And I also have a decent amount of pro bono experience working with prisoners. In 2018, I received the WMI grant to sponsor a project where I got together some of my friends from law school, and we came together, went to the Ikoyi prisons, interviewed prisoners, and offered them pro bono legal and alternative dispute resolution services. You all probably heard about the NSAS protest last year. So, you're no stranger to the fact that we have, I don't want to term it a police problem, but let's say administrative problem, having police officers just arrest young people, throw them in jail, just gross human rights violations against both young and old people. So there are tons of young people who are just stuck in prisons without having been arraigned in court. So they just pick you off the street and throw you in prison and leave you to rot there. And if you have a family, because tons of people don't, your family goes on to look for you, and they have no idea that you are probably in a cell somewhere. So that's what my project tried to focus on, just trying to go to the prison, interview people there, and offer them their day in court. And we were able to get quite a number of people out just out of prison that way. More recently, I just moved to New York, and I'm currently studying for a master's. I'm currently undertaking a master's program in law at Columbia University in New York. And thus far, it's been going pretty well. And I guess that's one of the reasons why I'm here, to share my experience of studying in New York, maintaining connections with my friends and family and connections back home, and maximizing the opportunities that I have here. So over the course of this webinar, I will be sharing my experience in New York. I will share how I have gotten to this stage, tips which I have found helpful to keep me on my toes, keep me focused, and bring me to this stage. And just finally, before I log off and have Ajima talk about the next question, I would say that my coming to New York, it didn't just happen. It was, a series of deliberate, activities. It wasn't just, I just woke up one day and I got lucky and, just got the scholarship. No, it wasn't that. I had this plan for a while, and I thought about them. Of course, I had encouragement from friends and family to stay focused and pursue this goal. And so over time, I was able to get to this stage. And so it was just planning and focus and keeping the bigger picture in mind. So I want to mention this so that as we go through the webinar, you just all have this in mind and understand that it's a process, and you have to, plan well and have your goals and have measurable steps as to what you want to achieve and what you deem, the plans that you would like to have. And then over time, you will be able to achieve all that and so much more. So Raphael, you can start with the next question and then we go like that.
All right. Thank you, guys. The last point you mentioned, Obinna, is quite critical because people think, oh, you're in New York, you're studying, you have like everything paid for, you're so lucky. But I think people don't understand what you have to go through: the sleepless nights, the intention, the focus, everything, all the work that you have to put to get in there. And as we go through this webinar, I hope other scholars realize that it's like you have to form a kind of a vision in your head of where you want to go, and start with small, very important steps to take you there. So thank you guys for sharing that first opening. Now, why should people study abroad? This is a question I want us to have a discussion around. I know there are a lot of reasons why people would want to study abroad, but I wanted to just our speakers to maybe talk about what got them to even think about studying abroad. I know, Ajima, you did mention that from when you were young, you knew that this is what you really wanted, probably maybe to widen your horizon, make you more competitive. I don't know, for whatever reason, but could you kindly share with our participants? And I see people are raising their hands. I'll get back to you after speakers share. I think it would be orderly that way. But meanwhile, you can pop in your question in the chat. Thanks.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, thank you so much for your question. Before I even go ahead to answer your question, I'm going to say it's not all rosy as sometimes it appears. Once people get opportunities, they post it on Facebook, they post it on LinkedIn. But indeed, just like Hilary and Juma said, there's a lot of background, efforts. There's a lot of background preparation that happens before even the actual getting the scholarship. So to just go to your question, why study abroad? As I had just briefly explained while I was introducing. So for me, it was something that is just instinctive, from high school, you're just passionate about certain things. I found myself to be very passionate about language. I was even learning, at some point I started learning one other Nigerian local language, but some of the the challenges that exist in not having a lot of learning materials to learn African indigenous language. So it was even easier for me, even though I was in Nigeria, to learn French, learn English compared to learning, say, for example, Yoruba. So for me, that from high school, I've always been curious, that curiosity mindset, or what goes on in Canada, what goes on in France, what goes on in Ghana, what goes on in Rwanda, even like other African countries. So it was something really, that inspiration indeed was in me from the onset. So, and that inspiration, that sort of curiosity pushed me more to, discover opportunities just outside Nigeria. So I would pick up books about Quebec, for instance, and read. I would pick up books about France and read. I would pick up books about Ghana, Rwanda, and read, just to even expand my mindset and horizon as to what is obtainable outside within the Nigerian space. So you found out that even before I had finished high school, I was already really globally sort of aware, understanding some of the things happening outside my home country, understanding how educational system outside my home country worked. And that sort of shaped me in terms of preparing myself, which would be something we will tackle in the next steps, to position myself, to prepare myself ahead to take up opportunities for me, like even before they came, or even before I was close to those opportunities. So for me, I would say it would be just that curiosity to learn perhaps about other people's educational system, or get quality education elsewhere, if you can put it that way. But yeah, those are, I guess, one of the two reasons why I wanted to study abroad to begin with in the first place.
At my end, I, just like Jima, I also had some level of curiosity about what it would be like studying abroad and living outside Nigeria for a while. So I had that. But my main motivation to study abroad was, for me, it's more of a career advancement for me. These days, everyone has a bachelor's degree. Most people have a master's degree. So of course, you want to distinguish yourself. You want to be in a position where you're able to set yourself apart from the crowd. So that was definitely a motivation for me. And just in addition, the experience of living outside the country, seeing the world beyond whatever little experience or whatever limited experience you might have within your country. It's a whole world. It's a whole world out there. So you want to see that. And in addition, I also was motivated to come over to New York to study, just because of the quality of the education. You can say it's definitely not parallel to what you would obtain back home. But then again, it's Columbia, so it's also better than what you would obtain in most parts of the world. So those, for me, were my major motivations. And I think that this should also be just for whomever is interested. You can definitely look at your career path and decide on what you think would help you to advance your career. So for instance, I speak with people here all the time, and right now I see tons of people who get very good jobs, if that's something you want to pursue, without having to get a college degree, because it's expensive and it's a lot of time. So you spend a lot of time studying, and it's a lot of time, it's a lot of money. So it's a huge amount of investment. So I just want to mention that a master's degree, a bachelor's degree isn't the only way to get yourself enlightened. So you have to decide on your career path. What do you want to pursue? What do you want to achieve, right? And based off your personal decision, you would be able to come to the very best conclusion as to what steps you can take to advance your career. So for instance, if you want to pursue a career in, say, IT or software development, you don't have to go through a 4-year degree program. So I have a friend right now, and she is undertaking this boot camp in California, and I think it's just for about 8 months. And right after the boot camp, they have people come there to recruit them for full-time graduate roles from Amazon, from Facebook, from Google. So that's, it's just about the information. So and thankfully we all have the internet. So rather than spending all your time on Facebook is good, Instagram is good, but then you don't want to spend all your time on social media. You also want to spend some of that time researching what would make you more competitive in the job market. If you are in the job market, or if you are an entrepreneur, what course do you have to take? Just what do you have to do to advance your career? What do you have to do to position yourself for more opportunities? If you are an entrepreneur, what do you have to do to position yourself better in the job market? We are coming out of a recession, and it's tough for most people, right? It's tough for entrepreneurs, it's tough for employees just as much. So you want to be in the best position to put your best foot forward and be one step ahead of the competition. So for me, that was my primary motivation in coming over to New York to study.
Thank you guys for sharing. I know you singled out the quality of education, which really stands out. I remember when I just began my master's degree, and we were given a task. And so, I tried to copy paste stuff like the way we do it back home, and I failed. So it's like studying abroad, as you say, it challenges everything that you believe in. And then you have to go back to the drawing board and start asking, like, okay, so, how, even the fact that you can just email your professor or lecturer and they would respond immediately with the question, with the response that you want. I think that alone speaks to itself, because I remember in Kenya, you have to, if you're, and sorry to say, but if you're doing your dissertation at a master's level in Kenya, you'd be chasing the professor or your supervisor around, calling their phone. They would switch off their phone. You wouldn't get any response. And then you would take 2 to 3 years before you get things done. So just to emphasize your point on that. And then something else you mentioned about social media. I was reading somewhere that, an average person would check their phone every 15 minutes. So it's just like you need to check your phone, So ever since I read that, I really became cautious, cautious about having to just switch off my phone for the whole day when I'm busy and not, get messages popping up and stuff. So I think these things, as you say, Facebook is good and Instagram and, WhatsApp, but what value does it add at the end of the day towards what you want to achieve? If you're doing business in Facebook, that's good, but then is it adding any value to your life? And then you also mentioned about the boot camp and just lack of information of how, we need to, people are not informed, which leads me nicely to the next question. Where do we get these opportunities? I know everyone wants to advance, whether it's in their career, it's in, professional field. So where do you get this information? Ajima, I would start with you, because at high school, I don't think you are so much informed to the level that you're already thinking about, okay, there's this opportunity at McGill, which is like a leading world-class university. And you can already see you there and you're going for it and pursuing it. So where do we get this information for people who would want to attend boot camp or master's degree or any career development or leadership opportunity. How did you guys get to where you are now? I think someone would benefit from that.
Yeah, thank you so much. I honestly, I'm just gonna say I really like how this, like the presentation and the flow is going, because we've started with even understanding why do we want to go abroad, but now we've at least been able to answer the question as to why do you want to go abroad. You find out that the next step is now how do you even get the information to prepare yourself, because the faith without no good work and effort, they say is faith without good work is dead. That's I think that's a saying somehow they say. So I think for me, my answer again is going to go back to my experience in Nigeria. So because I had finished through as Juma is saying, I don't think I had the level of exposure or the level of understanding as I had, even though I had the dream, right, of going abroad. The Mastercard Foundation scholarship that I had applied and got is funny, but how did I get the information? I got it like simply based off that I was working at a cyber cafe as an attendant. And then, as you work in cyber cafe, people can call you if they have a problem with their time, or if they want to print something, or if they have problem, they are trying to fill forms and maybe the network is slow. So it was actually someone who was applying to Mastercard Foundation scholarship that called me to help them with a problem because of the internet where I was working at that time. So I basically came and saw it, and then I was curious, oh, what is this? What are you applying to? Before the person began to explain, oh, it's a Mastercard scholarship, it's overseas, and these are the application processes and material. So for me, even just that exposure and asking questions and following up to understand how it works was my first exposure to knowing about the scholarship. I'm just going to say something which is very good, because when I learned about it, I applied for the first year. I failed. I did not get in. It was actually the second year when I now understood how I should prepare myself more that I applied and got in the second year. So I have applied in the first year. I did not get in. It was in the second year. And I think just sharing from my own experience how my mindset sort of got exposed to understand this concept was there was a Nigerian scholarship. It was called the Rivers State Sustainable Development Scholarship for Nigerian indigenes who are looking to go outside to study. It was actually that indigenous scholarship that I had applied first. I got in. They take us to a 3-month boot camp, sort of where they were basically preparing us, for life outside Nigeria. The scholarship ended up not happening, or I was sort of like removed from the scholarship. That's a story for another day. But if there was just one thing that I was grateful for that experience, especially particularly through the 3 months boot camp it gave us, was I had so much opportunity to mix with young people like me, likely-minded people like me, who some of them were from very privileged backgrounds. Some of them had even had experience of going overseas, coming back. So I was mostly just listening to them, sharing their own experiences, sharing their educational aspirations. I'm from a very small town in Nsukka, which is just a very tiny town, and sometimes you don't even get exposed to the ideas these young Nigerians that some of them said, oh, I want to be a chief judge, I'm going to be a technologist, I'm going to be an innovator in this social field. Like I didn't have like a lot of people around me going or telling me like those kind of big dreams. So if you know that just that 3 months opportunity in the boot camp that I had with my fellow students sort of switched my mindsets. It switched my messages on how do you even prepare yourself. Yes, you have the dream of going to study at McGill. Then what do you need to do in terms of your leadership preparation? What do you need to do in terms of preparing yourself, getting engaged in certain activities that will make you shine or even be prepared to take up the opportunities. So for me, I think there's atom of luck in it, but there's also that intention of curiosity, asking questions. And once you get that questions push yourself forward as well to go into those opportunities that will just keep on like filling you with more information, more empowerment that will take you a step further. We will have more time again towards the end of the presentation. I will share more my experience studying at McGill, but I think I could just stop there in terms of as to like how did I even learn about the exposure and the higher level of information that I needed to take a step further.
All right. Thank you, Raphael. That is so important. And I feel like Raphael has made literally all my points, because, you know, the first thing I was going to say is hang with the right crowd. I recall when I was in the equivalent of high school, that's like I think across Africa, we call it secondary school, right? I recall in my junior secondary school 3, we call it JS 3. I don't know what you guys call it. I know here it's called 9th grade. So no, I think 12th grade. So in my junior JS 3, you write your junior WIAC, and then you proceed to SS1, which is senior secondary school 1. After which you write, you know, your final high school exams to get into college. So I recall vividly, you know, I had this you know, when I was heading out into when I was heading into senior secondary school, I had this conversation with my brother, and he has always been a high-flying student. He's a biomedical engineer, you know, straight first class and all that. And so I had this conversation with him, and he told me that, Hilary, listen, you are going into senior secondary school 1. And at this point, you are starting at the same level with everyone in your class. So he told me that if you are able to stay focused in school, if you are able to, you know, work hard, you will be ahead of your peers, because you guys are all starting at a level playing field. So, you know, it's like, it's a race, and, you know, they said on your marks, get set. So at that point, no one's ahead of you. So he told me, when you go back to school, stay focused, don't lose focus. Because if you lose focus now, it will be way more difficult for you to catch up in your, say, senior secondary school 2, that's SS2 or SS3, or your final level. But if at that beginning stage, you know, you stay focused, because it's like a race, then you will be ahead of everyone. And even if you backslide later on, it will be way easier to catch up, right? And I shared this story because he told me this. And then the second point he told me was that he said, when you go back to school, find someone who performs well in school and stick with them. Just, you know, make them your friend. If they are going to, you know, going for lunch, go with them for lunch. If they, whatever they're doing, just do it with them. And I really can't tell you how that happened, but that semester, I went from, you know, like, you know, just a regular student to the very top of my class. I was among like the top 5, and afterwards I remained, you know, at the top 3 until I left high school. And so I share this story because it is so important. Find someone who has accomplished what you want to accomplish and stick with them. Ask them, how did you do it? Ask them, how did you go about it? Which, you know, it's funny because I was just reading this article. I think it was published in Harvard Business Review. They were talking about the Igbo apprenticeship system, you know, about how successful Igbo men come back to the village and they take younger people under their wings and teach them and train them. And, you know, that's how they build generational wealth, you know. So and it applies to everything you do in life. Find someone who has done that. If you want to become a scholar, you know, and here's the thing, people are busy and no one owes you anything. So, you know, they might not be very nice, but just keep at it, right? And thankfully, there's the internet. You don't need to find someone in your locality. You can add them as friends on LinkedIn. You can add them as friends on Facebook. Listen, when I was applying to Columbia, I reached out to people. Tons of people ignored me, right? But then I just needed one person, just one person who had the right information to respond. And I got that person. And they told me, oh no, this is what you're going to do. Have you done this before? Include that in your application. Have you? So, you know, just just find someone who is willing to teach you, find someone who is willing to show you the path, and I remember I am speaking with someone now, and she told me she came to Columbia also, and she told me, here is what I wish I did while I was at Columbia, because the time goes by so fast and you do not have access to all information, right? But then when you have someone who has walked that path before you, they tell you, oh, this is something that I wish I did, you should do this. This is something that I wish I did, you should do that. So it is so important that whatever you decide to do, if you're an entrepreneur, find someone who has done that kind of work before, or someone who has done something similar, right? And just, I like to find someone who is more advanced than me, because then there is little to no likelihood of, jealousy. You don't have the idea of someone feeling jealous, because then they are probably, way ahead of you. And so they have nothing to be jealous. They are invested in your success. They want to see you succeed, because that way it will also reflect good on them. And, they have bragging rights. They'll be like, oh, I mentored him. Oh, I taught him, So find someone ahead of you, not your mates. Find someone ahead of you, and, just hitch your wagon to them and stick with them, and just find a way to learn from their experiences. Now, for me, I think this is the biggest factor to how you can position yourself for success, and position yourself for scholarships. And also just building off of Jima's experience, just this also goes back to hanging with the right crowd. Find people who have the same dreams as you. Find people who have the same aspirations as you, because we are all humans. We all get tired. We all get, exhausted after a while. Motivation isn't infinite, it's finite. So you want to be around a crowd that motivates you. So even when you feel exhausted, because you are in the right circle, you would have no option but to study, or if you're in school, to study, or you will have no option but to, work hard at whatever your craft is, because everyone around you is working hard. So you can just, you don't want to go back and sleep, right? You want to do what your friends and colleagues are doing. And so I think this is the most important thing to place in yourself. And at the end of the day, I feel like at the end of the day, you need some level of grace, you need some level of good luck, but then you wouldn't even get to that stage where you need luck if you are not qualified, right? So you want to be qualified first and put in the hard work. As Jima said, faith without work is dead. And then, like me, if you believe there's a God, if you believe, just go on your knees and ask for assistance, because I have been in a room where a decision was being made. And at this point, I think they had about 4 persons who were really qualified. They had really good grades. They had stellar work experiences. So really, at this point, it just came down to luck, right? And so at that point, there's really nothing you could do. And we were only going to be able to pick with just one person. So at that point, you need some certain amount of luck. But if you are a WMI scholar, you're probably, you're probably doing something right. So just keep at it, try to get better, try to stay focused, try to read as many books as possible. I say this, I haven't read any book in a while, except, my school books. But then if you can do that, that would be great. That will keep you focused, and that will, help to keep your eyes on the prize.
Thank you for sharing that. I just want to reiterate Ajima's point on failure. I found that quite useful, because most of the time we apply for stuff and then you feel like, no, I can't do this anymore. I'm not getting what I want, so I give up. But the truth is that you never know, because you never know if that time you didn't apply, that was the time you could get the chance. So quite important, consistency, just like small efforts, as our speakers say, which adds up to something big. I really like that point. Bangura is asking, as a postgraduate applying for international master's program, how can he position himself to be a chosen candidate? And I think that our speakers have already alluded to that. And throughout this webinar, that is what we will try to show you guys, how you can position yourself. And Ajima, Obinna, you want to say something?
Yes, so just, to add to that quickly, in addition to everything both Raphael and I have said, I would say that to make yourself, an attractive candidate, if you're a WMI scholar, I presume, you already have your grades up, but then that is so important. It's so important because there are people who are privileged, right? So they are from like filthy rich homes, and yet they are working like they have everything to lose when they really have nothing to lose. So they have the added advantage of having extra tutors and having everything. Back in the days, all these African movies, you see someone from a very rich home and they are lazy and they don't want to work hard. Well, that doesn't happen anymore. It's not, well, of course it happens, but it is not as prevalent. Right now, you have people from very privileged homes who are working thrice as hard. So if you are a WMI scholar, you're probably a scholar because you need the money. It's both an excellence-based scholarship and a need-based scholarship, right? So it is so important for you to keep your grades up. Do not relent, stay focused. If you are in school and you are listening to this webinar, please keep your grades up. If you are able to finish with a first class, I know it's so difficult in Nigerian schools because in Nigerian schools, it's not just grades that matter. You need to be emotionally intelligent. But listen, do what you have to do as long as it is ethically right to keep your grades up. That is so important. Now, after you've done that, if you are in school, find avenues to volunteer, find avenues to build up your experience outside the classroom. So for instance, at Columbia, when they bring you in or give you scholarships, it's not just on the basis of grades alone. They want to see that you are a well-rounded candidate, right? They want to see that you have experience outside the class. They want to see that you are a change maker. You do things in your community to drive change. So find something, no matter how little it is. Is it an advocacy program? Do it. Is it a program where you volunteer to teach? Take it seriously. And I know that when I was a scholar, I don't know what it is now, but then it was a requirement and you had to, document it. I don't know if that is the case, but right now that's even more important. There's this saying, if you don't have pictures and videos, then it did not happen, right? Because anyone can just say, oh, I did this, I did that. So, they have all these free websites. What's the name? WordPress and blogs. They are free. Set up a WordPress, document what you do, just share it on Facebook, share it on Twitter. Let people know what you do. It's a form of branding. It's a way to put yourself out there. It's a way to position yourself. And these are all things that you do because you have a goal in mind. You know that you want a scholarship. So when you're applying, then you can put, oh, I did this, I did that. So they know that you are proactive. They know that you are focused, and it's all easier said than done. I'm saying this right now and it sounds so easy. It's not so easy, but then if you have the drive, you have to give, something has to give, right? You have to give to get something. So if you want a scholarship, start now to position yourself so that by the time you want to apply, it's just so easy. You're really just compiling evidence of what you have done. And then, with a little story here and there of what your father told you and what your mother told you and what you experienced, just to spice it up a little. But then you have an overwhelming ton of experience to buttress the fact that you are good at what you do, and wherever you go, you will be a change maker.
I'm just going to add something quickly to what Hilary has said, because we were also trying to make the presentation in such a way that is at least adaptable to the current needs of the WMI scholars and graduates. So Hilary just mentioned something for us being part of the Wells Mountain Initiative, which you find out that already we are privileged because not everyone in the African continent is part of WMI, unfortunately. So you find out that already for you being part of WMI, you've shown certain degree of leadership. You've shown certain degree of academic excellence, and then you've also shown certain degree of making impacts in your community. So you find out that already you have Wells Mountain, who is vetting for you as a scholar, that yes, we know this person, we know he or she does this, and we know this is somebody who can be a change agent for whatever academic career they want to pursue. So I think it's really, really important that we even realize that we are privileged in that nature, so that, you know, as you are developing your leadership skill, as you are, you know, planning for your future goals, you find avenues to even chip in from already the privilege you're getting from the Wells Mountain. I'm going to give an example as well. So some people have the graduate scholar have the opportunity to apply for a community seed grant, which is something Hilary and I mentioned at the beginning. So for myself, I had gone back to Nigeria in 2017, purposefully for the seed grant to implement a project that the Wells Mountain initiative had funded at that time, in which I went to my home community and we did some sort of computer literacy and development program. Honestly, even doing it at that time, I was just doing it for the passion of just giving back to my home community. You know, this person that you have a lot of scholarship and privilege already vested on you. I'm now finding avenues to just stay connected and give back to home community. But if you know that that opportunity is a privilege on its own, because not everyone gets funding to even implement the great ideas they have. And, you know, even from doing that experience, I learned so much about implementing projects at grassroots level, the importance of it, the high value attached to it. And that in its own is a skill set, that is a value that I have developed through Wells Mountain Foundation. So sometimes even when opportunities are knocking for you, take them, because once you take them, you learn from it, and it positions you more for, you know, for the graduate scholar who are looking to do masters. That is the proof that you have that you're a leader. You've benefited from Wells Mountain Scholarship. You've done a project in your home country through a seed funding. That is something valuable, that even if you're applying for a master's scholarship elsewhere, they can read your profile and say, yes, okay, this is a leader. You've developed certain degree of leadership quality. And because of that, we want to accept you for a master's, because we know you will likely continue through that path. Just an addition to what Hilary had said.
Good discussions. I want to encourage people to also ask their questions through the Q&A chat box, and we'll be able to see that and answer. It's good you've already alluded to the issue of funding and even how WMI supports scholars to implement programs and also teach them how to manage those programs as well. Now, when it comes to funding in terms of postgrad programs, I know a friend who, you know, we were studying together, but then they didn't have a scholarship, and so they had to work overnight, come back, take a 2-hour nap, prepare, go to class, go to work, come back, you know, sleep for 2 hours. I mean, to raise money to pay and to pay for school fees and also to cater for daily needs. But in the end, the person got burned out, you know. So there's this critical issue, in as much as studying in some of these countries is good and provides additional opportunities and is of good quality, you could argue. How about funding? How have you guys gone through that? I know, Ajima, Obinna, you are a recipient of 3 huge scholarship opportunities, and Ajima, you also got the Mastercard scholarship, which has like a 1% probably selection rate, and covers everything really for you, and just making sure that you're not stressed, you're going to class, you're keeping your grades up without the financial burden. So how and where do you guys get this opportunity?
All right, I could start. So the very first thing I would say is this, because everything, of course, I had to put in applications, right? And I'm going to say this, whenever you are applying for a fund or a scholarship or whatever, have several other people look through your application. And it's funny I said this, I do this all the time, but it's funny I said this because I just made a mistake a short while ago. I didn't have someone and I made a terrible mistake that cost me, right? So I'm going to just say this because we're here to learn from each other's mistakes and, you know, improve ourselves. Always have someone take a second look. And if for whatever reason it's time bound, say you discovered it late or whatever, never send out, you know, as soon as you finish working on, say, a job application or a master's application or a scholarship application, don't just hit the send button. Always give yourself at least 30 minutes. I guess, you know, there's no hurry you should be in that you don't have 30 minutes, right? So just give yourself 30 minutes, take a walk, come back and look through your work with a fresh pair of eyes. And this applies to, you know, the work you do as, you know, you don't want to be that person in the office whom everyone knows as, oh, this person always sends out work with errors. You don't want that, right? You want your work to speak for itself. You want whatever that goes out from your email, from your work email, from your personal email, from your phone email, except of course, you know, you're just chatting with friends, to be really good, right? Because these days, everything is so competitive. So the second they just spot a typo, they'll just delete your application, because why should they give you a chance when there are tons of other qualified persons, right? So speaking about funding, of course, making sure your application does not have a typo and, you know, is written out clearly and neatly, because you can be super qualified, you can have good grades, you can have all the extra work experience, but then if you are unable to put together a good application, you do not stand a chance. You know, your work will probably just make it through the cutoff and then they will toss it out. So in order to ensure that you're able to get funding, make sure your application is good. For instance, Lisa is here. She helped me to review my application. You know, I put it through her, I put it through Nicole. So they all give me very important feedback, and I'm so thankful to them, because without their feedback, I probably would not be here, right? So now, having said that, mine wasn't a conventional funding. I know Raphael had the Mastercard, so, you know, from the start, he just had everything sorted out. Mine wasn't that way. So you know that Columbia is a very expensive school. It's an Ivy League. It costs over $100,000 to get here. So I was joking with my brother. My brother is also a Mastercard Foundation scholar, and he was like, oh my God, this is way more than all the money that I spent throughout my degree program. And I spent this money just in 1 year, right? So mine was a little complicated. So here is the first step. I would say that it was a lot of work for me, and it was really a lot of stress. So I would say that if you aren't really concerned about, you know, the ranking of the school, you don't really care about going to an Ivy League, you just want to, you know, go for your master's, and then you shouldn't probably apply to, you know, very expensive schools like, say, Columbia or Stanford or Harvard. It depends on what you want. It should come from you, right? So having made that decision, if you decide, say, you want to apply to, say, Stanford or Columbia or Harvard, more power to you. The next step is, you know, you put together your applications, and usually how this works is you will first get your admission offer first. I did that. And after I did that, when I was putting in my applications, I also applied for financial aid. I made it clear that, listen, I don't have $100,000. You need to give me a scholarship, or else I would not be able to come. So they first awarded me a certain amount. So they first awarded me the Human Rights Fellowship, you know, with a very generous amount. And I was like, oh my God, thank you so much. This is so much. But then I cannot afford to come to school unless you give me more money. So, you know, it was back and forth. I had to keep negotiating. And I was like, oh, I'm applying to Stanford, and, you know, I would go to Stanford, so you need to give me more money, so I will come to Columbia. So, you know, it was kind of, you know, a bargain, and I kept going back and forth up until I got, you know, enough money to be able to cover, you know, all my expenses. And then, you know, I knew that the rest I could take care of it, right? So for me, it was a negotiation process. I didn't just get the money all at once. I have a ton of emails, you know, going back and forth. Oh, thank you so much, but then I need more money. I need to do this. I have to do that. You know, explaining to them, you know, the exchange rate problems, the fact that I do not have access to loans, you know, because the interest rates are just insane. I think it's about 25% in Nigeria, which is crazy. So I told them that that is not, that's not an option for me. I need scholarship, of course. And of course, I had to be diplomatic, but then I got the message across. So that was how I went about this, which is why I said it's tricky, because even though these schools are super rich, they are not Father Christmas. They would not just throw money at you, right? So you need to negotiate with them. You need to be diplomatic. You need to, and well, if you believe in God like me, then you need to pray for favor so that things work out in your favor, because there are tons of other people who are just as qualified, right? And oftentimes it works out, other times it doesn't, So that was how mine went. And then subsequently along the line, after I arrived, then I heard about this scholarship, Davis Polk. It's a law firm in the US. I applied. They gave me the Mckenzie Scholarship. It's a law firm here in the US. They give scholarship to lawyers. So they collect applications from Columbia, and then they go through it and they give out awards to whom they like. So, and what positioned me for that award was my work with Project Freedom. So it was the work that I did with prisoners. The managing partner told me that, as soon as he read that, he was like, this is the guy. And they awarded me the scholarship, right? Which was $50,000. It was a lot of money. So, well, it is a lot of money. So, you want to, which goes back to positioning yourself with the extra work you do outside the classroom, right? Your extracurricular activities. Yeah, so that's my funding story. So maybe Jima could shed more light on having Express and all the money given to you.
Yeah, it's funny that Hilary was trying to claim it was all figured out for me and for my own scholarship. So the thing is, as I said, I feel like foremost to begin with is, unless like you're from a very super rich and wealthy family, it is not easy to study overseas if you're not having scholarships or funding supporting you. Like, it's almost impossible, especially given the context of those of us coming from the African continent and not from sort of like a well-off family. So for me, I had told you guys I failed in the first application process. I did not get in, but that did not stop me. I actually doubled my efforts ahead. Hilary is talking about preparing, having people review your CV. I think the preparation in this stuff is actually what determines how you get the scholarship, because the preparation will show off in your application and how everything was well done. So for me, I would say even prepare a year ahead. So if currently you're looking to start your master's scholarship next year, September, which is usually the fall period, start today with your application. Start today with contacting like streamline, like I don't know, but I've seen people, once they are applying for master's and scholarship, they have an Excel file that has the list of the universities that you want to apply to, the list of the professors in those departments or specific department that you're really looking into to do your master's, what type of funding are available in those departments, which ones am I going to apply. Then they also have a list of who is going to be their references, who is going to review their essays for them a year ahead before they even do the actual application. So that you find out that you prepare a year ahead with all this information, then you also widen your net. Like for me, during my own period, I had applied to close to 8 different universities for scholarship. And I ended up getting 3 offers because you find out that, so you as a champion, right, as a leader, you have all this leadership development coming from WMI. You have a lot to offer as well to the international community in terms of your experiences, in terms of some of the things you've done. Like, that is the value in itself you have. So you find out that at the end, you yourself, right, you have the opportunity to negotiate and even choose the best one for you in terms of your career. So for me, I had widened my net. I had prepared a year ahead, and then I got 3 offers out of the 7 to 8 applications that I did. Really good applications that I had prepared so well to do. I think I remember I got into ALU, University, African Leadership University. I got into McGill, and then I also got into at the university in Costa Rica, because I was also very passionate about going to Southern America to study then. But I ended up choosing McGill because it was the best fit in terms of my career and aspirations. But I cannot stress the importance of preparing ahead, 1 year ahead. Who is going to review your essays for you? Because you find out that even me, I graduated from McGill, which is a very quality university, but I still seek people's advice when I'm making applications, because there's always that third point of view, or from someone who is higher level than you, for example, Nicole or Liz, who can look into your application and say, okay, this is not clear. Do you mean this when you say this? You know, just having that support system that support you well ahead before you apply. So if you wake up today and you say you want to go to overseas for scholarship tomorrow, that might not be possible given the short time period. So the preparation in itself, I cannot overstress it. As Hilary has said, I recommend a year ahead, actually. So if you're looking to get in next year, start now. Start writing your essays. Start writing, if you need, someone is talking about TOEFL as an exam, start exploring avenues in terms of funding on how the TOEFL can be funded a year ahead, so that once the application period even starts, you already have things well reviewed and prepared for you. In the end, apply to so many universities, apply to Europe, apply to Canada, apply to so many other schools, even within Africa, right? Like South Africa, it has a very good quality education system. Rwanda is coming up, Ghana is coming up. Like, cast your net wide, then that way you will have higher chances of landing a funding that is favorable for you in the last run.
Kenya is also good, Ajim.
Yeah, Kenya is coming up. Yeah, sorry about that.
It's there, Nairobi. We are we have the best university in Eastern Central Africa, really. So anyway, that's on a side note. But I also told you guys. Sorry.
Oh, sorry. I was just going to add to what Raphael said and answer a couple of questions. I can see a couple of questions which we're yet to answer. So I will just answer. I can see that Fode said, can we share a track of possible links and websites for fully funded scholar programs? So there are some popular sites. So like you have Opportunity Desk and you have Opportunities for Africa, right? So those are good. You can just Google Opportunity Desk and Opportunities for Africa. You would see them. It's like, I see a ton of opportunities there. But here's the thing. I don't really, so those are really good. But then I don't like competition very much, because I don't want to put in all that time and then I'm competing with someone who probably went to way better schools than I did and has straight A's and has better recommendations. So here's what I do. So here's the cheat. This is what I do. I don't like, so of course I view those sites from time to time to just see what's on there. But here's what I will advise you to do. Compile a list of universities you want to go to, or go online. You can Google a search of, say, maybe the top 100 universities in the world, or maybe the top 500 in the world, right? Or maybe the top 500 or 100 in the US or in Canada. When you have that, go to the university's website, read up on it. So look for scholarships that people don't know about, right? So when you go to the university website, look for because some schools, they offer funding and they don't call it scholarships, they just give you money. And sometimes they give you money, to cover the entire duration of the studies, right? With funding for even like your feeding and all that. So, but then it's not listed as a scholarship, so people don't know. So it's just out there, and then just very few people apply, and then they get, and oftentimes they're unable to even give out all the money because not enough people apply for these, because people don't know about these. But then, for instance, everyone knows about Mastercard Foundation Scholarship. So you probably have 10,000 or 15,000 people applying to one scholarship. I do not like those odds. I don't know about you, but I don't like those odds. I would rather apply, against, say, 100 or 200 people, So that's how you can do that. And someone asked about, so I think we have covered questions about scholarships and challenges we face in applying for those. Someone asked about, TOEFL. Here's the thing, you will have to make sacrifices. I know that there are scholarships for, say, if you are writing CFA, the finance exams, there's scholarships for those, but I don't know, there might be scholarships for maybe say TOEFL or GRE. And I know those exams, they're in dollars, so they're quite expensive, but you're a Wells Mountain Foundation scholarship, right? So save some of that money. Don't spend everything on, whatever. Just try to have a saving culture, save some of that money and invest it in yourself, invest it in applying for, the GRE exams or the TOEFL exams. Have some skin in the game. That will also help you to be motivated, because then you don't just have everything free, so you have something to lose, right? When you remember that you have to bring out $100 or $200, you would say, oh no, I need to pass that exam at the first sitting, So I don't know if there are scholarships. I don't know of any. I had to pay from my savings to take the TOEFL exam. So I would say if you can, which you probably can because the WMI gives you some money, save some of that and apply to the GRE or GMAT or TOEFL exams.
Maybe in addition to what Hilary has said, just quickly, I'm going to talk of the hidden funding as well, because it's something really good as well. So the Mastercard and few other like Chevron and few other scholarships are very, very competitive because a lot of people know about it. But in North America, actually, so there's funding. There's something they call funding through university systems. So for example, especially if you're really interested in doing research as part of your master's program, then you find out that there are funding available for you through the departments or the program that you will be enrolling in your university. So it's not really up to you as you're applying to make sure you find out about those funding as well and make it known that you would like to be considered for those funding while applying. These are really niche scholarship. It's not really advertised because again, they don't want too many candidates for it. But you find out that with that information, being concise about those schools you want, streamlining all the information down in an Excel file, then you're really on top of the game. So for a master's program, actually in Canada, where I live, I can talk a little bit because I know, master's admission in itself and funding really comes from the professors who will basically be supervising you for your master's program. And usually if those professors, they have funding, they get funding from like the federal government or from private institutions who are interested in research that their department are doing, that through that funding, they can fund master's students for their education so that master's students will also keep working in their research and lab. You get, so even understanding that this is how it works, you can target those type of studies where it's really because you're going in for your master's research and then you'll be getting funding as part of it. But you have to really be intentional. You have to know who is the professors are in those departments, and you even contact them ahead before you apply to the schools, because essentially they will be the person admitting you and supervising you for your master's. So you even contact them like few months ahead to even get the approval. You submit your resume, you submit your transcript to them, you write them short email, right? You can always see their emails from the university website. Hello, my name is this, I'm part of a Wells Mountain Scholar, which is a leadership program that does this. I'm very passionate about what you're doing as part of your research. I was wondering if you could look into my CV and application. I'm interested in being your master student and working in your research. You send it to so many people, you can get 1 or 2 responses. If they say yes, then you go ahead and apply. And usually once you get admission, they will consider you for the funding as well, as part of your education.
Yeah, I think, well, I just want to remind us that we have 10 more minutes for this, so be sure to ask your question as time allows. The point you made, though, is quite important on 2 things. 1, research, and 2, reach out, networking. I think because, people ask me, what other scholarships are there? I mean, if it's something you really want, my first thought is you should research about that, right? And tell me that, okay, I have this, I've found that there's chevening scholarship, and this is when I'll need to apply. How do I go about it? I think in that way, people would be really more willing to collaborate with you and to help you to put forth a very strong application. So just reach out, as Ajima says. For me, I will email, and the worst thing that can happen is for them either not to respond or say no. And the best thing, they can say yes, of which case it works to your advantage. So you don't want to regret later on, oh, why didn't I reach out? And then there's another thing you said about just something about some people asking, oh, I want to get into a master's program this September, and with a fully paid scholarship program. I mean, it's already, we're closing into May.
Exactly.
Not get,
the application for September deadline has passed. I mean, I'm sorry to cut you short, Juma, but even from the question you ask people, they can now determine the level of preparation and research you've done. So if you're asking me, oh, hi, Ajima, I want to go in, I'm interested in McGill, I want to get into September. The application deadline for September has passed. It means you did not even go to the website to look at the deadlines, or even just get basic information about what you really want. And that understanding that is a turn off for the person you were asking questions, because we tell them, oh, actually this person has not even done their basic research. Like, how do I even help them? Like, I'm not gonna be the one who will go to McGill websites and research for you, like tell you this is what you have to apply, unless like it's someone that does that as a guidance and counseling job you get. But if you're like, hello, Ajima, I want to apply to McGill next year. I have already written my applications. I've already written my CV. Do you think this is a good CV to do? Okay, wow, this person is ready and on track, and he's already done the research. Or if you say, hi, Ajima, I hear you work at McGill. Do you know this professor? I am interested in his research in so field because I want to go into that program for my master's. Can you help me connect? So that way, it shows you've done such a very tremendous amount of research and preparation from your end. And then that person you're trying to reach out and network with can meet you at a common ground and then assist you from there. This is really, really important, I would say.
Obinna, saying something?
Oh yeah, so I was just going to add to that, so I had someone reach out to me and she said, that, she read about my scholarship and she wants me to, like serve as a mentor. And I said, sure, I'm glad to help. Someone helped me. So of course, whatever you need. And then she messaged me later on and told me that, okay, so, so she was basically asking me to give her my application, give her my application materials and give her my CV. And I was like, no, I won't give you my application. So I thought that, no, this is how it works. And, afterwards, I responded because I didn't want to just ignore the message. But then, at that point, I knew that, I shouldn't waste my time. I should just, So when you need to show some level of commitment and initiative, right? So go to the website, do the research. Don't just send out an email and tell someone that, oh, please, what scholarships are there? You have the internet. That was probably how you were able to reach me. So find a scholarship, get together your materials, and then reach out to someone and say, oh, how do you think I should do this? I have this, I have done this, I have done that. What do you think about this? Or can you introduce me to this person? Of which before I introduce you to someone, I want to be sure that you wouldn't, do something that would reflect badly on me, or spoil my relationship with that person. So, and the only way you can show yourself to be diligent and be responsible is by doing the work beforehand. That's really the only way you can increase your chances of getting a response or, getting some positive feedback.
The last component of this discussion would be about just staying connected back to your home country. And I know so many people are interested to study abroad, but how then do you maintain that connection and and what happens after your studies then?
Well, at my end, I would say that's really important because, you know, it's good to maintain the network with your home country, to maintain the network with your friends. That's really important because, you know, we are social beings and you will definitely need someone back home at some point. So I try to do that. That's definitely something I have to work on. But then I try to do that by, you know, just trying to stay communicative with friends, you know, from time to time through WhatsApp. So it doesn't seem like, you know, I just ignore everyone and then all of a sudden I need something and then I just pop up in their inbox. Oh, hey, hi. No, that's not how it works. So I just try. So my main means of staying in connection with family is through social media, friends, Facebook. You know, I just try to stay active from time to time, reach out to people. So that's how I do it. And so that's that. And, you know, talking about post LLM plans, I would say whenever you get a scholarship, keep all your options open. Don't close out anything. Don't, you know, if someone should come to you with an opportunity, don't be like, oh, no. I'm definitely not going to come back to my country, or I'm definitely going back to my country. So you say no to opportunities there. Just keep all the options open. You can be a change maker wherever you are. You don't have to, you know, be on the ground, you know, doing advocacy work, or, you know, just, you can be a positive force wherever you are. So that's my contribution. Over to you, Raphael.
Yeah, absolutely. I would say that I have friends, when they are leaving, they are like, oh, I'm shutting the door to Nigeria forever. I'm not going to come back to Nigeria. But it's funny, after 2, 3, 4 years, you have that discussion again. Wow, really? Do I really meant it when I said it? Because no matter how hard you try, you're ever going to have that connection to your home nation. Like, I am Nigerian 100%, and there's nothing I can do to remove myself from being a Nigerian, no matter how hard I try you get. So how do I stay back home? I mentioned the WMI project that I've done, which really just gave me so much opportunity to not just to contribute, to also understand the value of impacting other people's life. So for me right now, I am currently co-creating an EdTech project that Juma had mentioned at the beginning. So we're looking to work with the schools that do not have access to educational system management platforms for their educational institutions. So we are looking to start up like a startup that helps those kind of schools. So for me, like at some point after spending some time overseas, you just realize there's no place like home, and like you're tied to your home country. And it's actually you that are now looking for avenues to contribute to your home country you get, because you've now been able to get certain degree of education, you've been able to get certain degree of access to like opportunities, like Hilary was talking about, access to like capitals or even finance that exists in North America. So how do you now collaborate with people back home to make sure some of those opportunities are made available even for your own country's men? It's like something self-fulfilling. It's now coming from the point of view that you're doing certain things because you know it's fulfilling for you as an individual, as against just for like economic gains, or for you went to overseas to learn about other people's culture. Okay, then you've learned about Canadian culture. What's next? You know, so it's now coming from that higher level of fulfillment, collaboration with people from your home country to make things better, not just for yourself, but also for even your families. I have my families in Nigeria. I have my friends, childhood friends that I grew up in Nigeria. So I like these are people you cannot go without, even though you are currently living in Canada. So I think that connection is really important. Don't even think of shutting the doors with your relationships, with your network back home, because you will be needing them as you're even co-creating or developing next steps projects with them in the future.
Thank you so much. I think we've come to the end of our time. I know we might have wanted it to go on because we have very informed and very able speakers, as you could tell. Thank you so much for coming. I would welcome Mariam to close this for us, maybe just a vote of thanks to speakers.
Hi, everyone. Thank you so much. The session has really been interesting, interactive, It has been enlightening. Even me, I myself, here's my book. I jot down some very, very, very important things that it has been eye-opening, seriously. And thank you so much for finding the time to join us today. Thank you so much, everyone, for joining us today. Thank you so much, Hilary, Obina, and Rafael Ajima, for sharing your wonderful experiences. It has really been interesting so far. I hope we'll have another session like this again. Thank you so much. Thank you so much, our wonderful moderator, Juma Omala. Thank you so much. And thanks a lot to WMI and the Global Advisory Board member for making this, for making this a success, for making this. Thank you very much.
All right. I don't know if speakers have any parting shot. Sorry, I forgot. Anything?
I'm sorry, Juba, but we're not able to hear you.
Oh, can you hear me now?
Yes.
Yeah, anything you want us to take home with us?
Oh, you mean for us, like the speakers?
Yeah, just one thing you want people to take home. Sorry.
Oh, Hilary, do you have something in mind? Maybe before you, as you're speaking, I would think of something.
Oh yeah, sure. Okay, I think, please, can everyone mute themselves if you're not talking? I think we're hearing a sound. All right, perfect, thank you. Yes, okay, yeah, all right. So my parting words is this, just stay encouraged, because sometimes after everything's said and done, things might not always work out the way you want them to. But you know, as Juma and Raphael said earlier, if you stay consistent, you will have one eventual outcome, and that will be success. So just stay focused. It's rarely ever easy. Well, nothing good comes easy, right? If it were easy, then everyone would do it, right? So just stay focused. Don't lose hope, don't lose enthusiasm, and hopefully at the end of the day, you would have some good news.
Yeah, I did not prepare for. I'm so bad at summarizing things as well. But if there's one thing I could say, yeah, there's so much value in having the opportunity to study outside one country. Is so much value in it because it allows you to see see experiences, see work, life, see other cultures, and sort of have that as an experience in addition to the experience you've had in home country. But I think other than just studying internationally, there will always be opportunity for people to experience other culture. So even if you don't end up studying overseas, there's like immigration, like as an opportunity for people to still go outside, work in other people's home country. There's also opportunity, like even for people who end up being professionals in their field. You can be a visiting professor, like at McGill, that happens a lot of time. You can be a visiting professor to a university in UK, and those will always give you the opportunity to experience like that concept of being in other people's home country and getting that experience. So it's not just only through scholarship and studying overseas, even though that is your immediate needs. So I think it's important to realize that, so that maybe if things don't always pan out the way you did, to realize there is always more opportunity for you to achieve that one goal that you always had in mind.
All right, thank you all, and see you next time.
Thank you, everyone. This was a really good experience. Have a great day, everyone.